Good morning.
My heart just stopped. You ever seen Iron Man when he puts on his suit? It was that was my heart. I just barricaded my heart. My heart stopped. I knew that it was the end. At that moment, I knew that it was the end. You see, I had had 2 children of my own. They were already grown up. I loved my freedom and I loved my life. And for nothing in the world was I going to deprive that human being from living the experience of having children. I went home and I cried all night long. And the next day I left him. But it wasn't over. For 3.5 years, Jean-Michel and I would struggle to go our separate ways. We would struggle to talk sense into ourselves. And in his folly, he was ready to give up his dream, and I was ready to give him kids, but we both knew that it just wasn't possible. We could not do this. We shouldn't do this. We shouldn't sacrifice our lives in such a way. So I began bringing girlfriends to our outings in hopes that he would look at them, but he would never look at them. I really didn't know what to do. We couldn't stay away from one another. We'd cry and just didn't know what to do. Our friends didn't understand us, our families even less. And time was ticking. I was almost 50. And then one day I was sitting on a terrace in Toulouse, drinking, and suddenly she walked by. It was magical, irreasonable. It was powerful. I could feel her essence. She had red hair. She was wearing a velour hat. It was a Victorian hat. It was a little bit crushed, soft. She was the most beautiful thing walking on 2 pair of legs. And I walked up to her and started a conversation with her. She was an author for children's books. And for 4 weeks, I entertained a unique relationship with her until the day that I invited her to come and see and meet my friend, Jean-Michel. When they crossed, when their eyes met, and I saw his smile, I knew that it was good. It was good. It was good. I had arranged for a girlfriend to call me and tell me there was an emergency so that I could leave. He knew. And I hugged him, he hugged me, he wouldn't let me go. He said to me, don't leave me. But I just said, just be free. Make your dreams come true, be free. Even without me, just be free. So I turned around to never return. I walked away. They called me the next day. They called me dozens of times. I changed my phone. I moved away, and I didn't see him for 4 years until one day I took the phone and I picked up the phone and called him and told him I was coming. He was exposing in a nearby village. And as I walked into the gallery, I saw that 4 years had gone by, and this beautiful little redhead came running out with curly hair, and she ran towards me as if she had known me all her life, with the beautiful green eyes, and she said to me in French, "C'est toi la fée, c'est toi la fée." That means, are you the fairy?
What did you learn?
That was a solo performance show? I
That was a
a
very
storyteller. She's a storyteller. And she's a sensual storyteller. And I just learned how how it manipulated me with all her sensual stories, and it evoked every emotion. You laugh, then you want to cry. And I don't know, I got it, but I didn't I wouldn't know that that was a solo performance show. I would just think that's somebody to stand up talking.
Yeah, what I got from that you could actually just stand up and tell a story. The way she described everything sensually, visually, like you could see and you was there. And it did evoke a lot of different emotions in me.
I loved how she was in it while she was telling it.
Yeah.
Like you could see that she was really, really reliving it, the whole thing.
And also it made me think about how you said, what the problem to be solved was and what the circumstances, and then how the protagonist was changed in the end by the story. So yeah, yeah, she really brought you into the story with her.
Her vulnerability is like, wow. That I think that's what I appreciated, her being vulnerable. Like she's like, look, I'm nervous. And I don't know if it was manufactured or what, but I could relate. It just became relatable once she wasn't being so mechanical about it. Because some people have beautiful slick shows and all that, but she was just like, this is a story. And it's like, oh, and it felt relatable, like she's a girlfriend talking to you, even though I don't even know this lady.
It's one of the best pieces of solo work I've ever seen. The strong beginning, middle, and end. Really simple. Really simple. No setup, no, he was a painter. He was friend. Like, we know where we going here. Right? Like, she was able to condense a magical moment in her life. I hope that everybody has magical moments where you do something that you dare not. That you just dare not. And that was her first sentence. I was 45. He was, did she say he was 26?
29.
29. I thought
29.
5 or 20 something.
Nah.
Listen!
That set it up right away. The audience was right there.
We're in it.
Yeah.
We're in it.
Yeah.
One sentence. It sounds like the dish you tell your friends after you meet the dream.
It was eat, love, pray-ish.
Mhm.
Eat, love,
Yeah.
pray. Oh, like, wow.
Why?
Yeah.
Why was it eat, love, pray?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I felt because I mean the movie that came out, but that's every seasoned woman's fantasy. Like you're fucking, I'm in a kitchen now with cornflakes. Like that's my life. You know, I had to make breakfast and hurry up and get on this. I appreciate that show. Please take me on a journey. Well, how old is he? 29? I'll take it. It's like, when I was
It
50.
took us on a journey
Yeah.
of one of the most important and lessons of her life, and one of the most difficult things she ever had to do.
It was selfless. That was selfless.
She had the fantasy, and she let the fantasy go to meet real life in the name of love. She did a very grown up, painful thing. So, with solo work, if you get away from this idea that it has to look a certain way, that's really helpful. Like, really helpful. Tell us about a journey. If you start a story with high emotional stakes, something that cost you, something that's personal, a journey that took you from the highs to the low, it has a limited time frame. It was a moment in time. Right? She said like 3 years or so. It was a moment in time that she condensed into 7 minutes. Which is really interesting because it's about 7 years of her life, right? They went back and forth dating for 3.5 years, and then she met him again 4 years later. 7 years of her life in 7 minutes. But a life-changing moment. And she took us through what she felt, what he meant to her. She took us into the conflict. She set up all the realities very early on. I'm this age and he's that age. And then she showed us how magnificent he was. And then how magnificent the relationship was with little anecdotes. Simple things. Things that twisted and changed and squeezed her heart, she was able to share. Always start with the first time that something ever happened to you. That's how you guarantee yourself a moment of high emotional stakes. The first time this thing happened, the first time you fell in love, the first time you gave up love for love, the first time you lived out a dream, the first time you made love in a church, the first time you took a trip across the world with no plan. Always start with something that cost you in the storytelling. And imagine you're telling this to a friend, someone who, one, wants to go on this ride with you because they love you, and two, because it's magic, right? And your friend will understand. If you write from that place, you will always start with high stakes moments. And what that does as a writer is to really chart your journey by taking notice. That's why solo shows are so amazing. They're generally first person. The character is speaking from the I. I did this, I saw that, he went there. I'm telling you a story about my life. That's one type of solo show. The other type of solo show is when you become different characters and let the characters speak. Or you have multiple characters in a solo show. And tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit about how you structure multi-character shows. I would like now to take a few minutes to look at Soyini's solo show excerpt. Well, an idea that she has for a solo show.
I do.
She wants some feedback on this idea. Okay, let me open this document for Soyini. La, 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 la. But where'd you send it? Am I crazy? Okay.
If you manage this well, it will be the best time of your life. If you manage it poorly, if you let fear.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's gone.
can you see it now?
Nope, still gone.
Oh no, this
Happened.
is terrible. All right. Let's start again. Can you
Okay,
see-
I got it. Yeah, it's back. 1 second, let me move my this thing around. Okay. All right, perfect. All right. Working title, I remember. I remember I was 5 years old. I was laying down on the living room floor. I don't know how or what led me to sleep on the floor. When I woke up, it felt like an overwhelming haze. I felt like I was coming out of a coma. I wondered why I didn't die. I felt so out of it, like something horrible happened to me and I should have died. My head was full of fear. My body felt I went through something deep, dark, and scary. I don't know what it is because I can't remember it. I can't remember it. I wish I knew what happened to me. I just felt deeply scared and out of it. I don't know why God let me live. I figured if God didn't take me out, he must have a purpose for keeping me alive. When I grow up, I want to live a free and comfortable life where I can travel the world like Paris, Africa, go away to college and become an actress and singer. I want to get married when I'm 23 and have two kids, a boy and a girl. I had big dreams and believed that God placed them in me for a reason, to achieve them. The drive to achieve my dreams were nearly beaten out of me due to the cards life dealt me.
All right. Let's talk about structure. What's the story here? Who's the heroine?
Would it be the little girl, 5 years old? Uh, yeah, and yeah, because she didn't die, and she experienced something. We don't know what it is yet. I think.
Okay. What is the event that starts the story?
Something happened.
Right. She's on the
We don't know what, like,
like she's
Waking,
waking
well,
up.
something happened to the girl specifically.
to her
And,
waking up
Yeah.
to her on the floor.
Mhm.
Mhm.
and how does this event change her?
I want to say it made her determined because of
Mhm.
that last sentence.
Right.
Something in her made her more committed to herself, to getting away from whatever terror she just went.
Okay. So, when is the beginning of this story? What starts this story?
When I grow up, I want to. When the little girl voice comes in.
When does the action start?
I think it's when the little girl, but she'd be flipping into that little girl character. Maybe.
Well, she wakes up out of a coma.
Yeah, but that's descriptive, isn't it?
Then she kind of brings the little girl out. So I'm assuming, yeah, she was 5 years old, and she wakes up on the floor, doesn't know what happened, it's all foggy.
Mm-hmm.
But then she goes into um, being committed to her dream. So when she grows up, what she wants.
Mm-hmm. What is the timeline? Silence. Because there isn't one. So, all the questions that I'm asking you are to clear this up. All right. Your inciting incident is what causes the story to happen. There's there's kind of an allusion to an incident, but we don't see the incident. What we see are feelings about the incident instead of painting a picture for your reader or your audience to have the experience.
Yeah, yeah.
So, this is a journal entry. I would call this a journal entry that we are now going to turn into a story with a concrete beginning, middle, and end, a concrete conflict, a concise timeline, right? In the monologue we just watched, 7 years, a love affair. It had a timeline. It had a beginning, middle, and end. It had a moment in which the protagonist had to change the outcome. It had an event. The event was this relationship exploding into her life and us giving her dropping in little pictures, little moments, so that we knew what the relationship meant to her. Instead of telling us how she felt about it, she showed us what the experience of this relationship was in real time. It happened, it was alive in her. She didn't say, I love this guy a lot, he was really special. No. I was 45, he was 29. He loved churches, he painted, he wrote. All verbs, all active, nothing passive about it. She is in the moment of this relationship. She is in the moment in which it changed her. So when you're writing about a moment, which is the inciting incident, the realization that this was a magical love that she had to give up. That's what sort of, that and the story prompt. In this case, we're getting vague feelings about it, which is the first draft. The second draft is to flesh out what those feelings were and how they felt. Really, how they felt. And a lot of learning how to write sensually, how to write concisely about huge emotional events, is that we expose ourselves to more good writing. We look at good writing. It's very clear to me watching Aryana Rose that she was a person who had experiences, who was well read. She clearly spoke several languages. She was traveling the world. She was open to magic, which is what all great writers are. You are open to the magic in everyday life. It doesn't have to be nothing fancy. They went and looked at churches. you know, they sat by a fountain in a little French village. That can happen in the parking lot of Costco if you're open to the magic. You just have to be open to it, which means that as a storyteller, you're always present, you're always in the moment of your story happening in your life, right now, right here. You are an observer. Journaling helps you become better at that, really noting the experiences you're having in your life. The artist way was a great way to sort of challenge myself to actually live life instead of living my fears and my limitations, right? Because it required you to get up out your hovel and go on an artist date someplace you've never been before and notice the things around you and then write about that experience. You're not going to get better at writing or enjoying life unless you're writing and enjoying life and to observe it. That's what journaling is about, so that you can go back in and pull out stories. So in Soyidi's case, I would actually pull out the story that's in the journal now and rewrite it so that it's present in the moment and you allow your reader to experience it with you. And this is where you, as the writer, comes in. You dramatize it. What you don't remember, you create. Take us to that moment and make us feel it. And assume your reader is a dear, dear friend who wants the best for you. Make it easy and make it safe. The second part of the story is the little girl speaking. Tomorrow we're going to look at monologues in which they stories rather, as opposed to monologues, stories that break up into scenes where characters actually speak. So it feels like there's two stories going on there, and they need to be fleshed out. That's the next draft. Tell me a story. Don't tell me feelings. Tell me a story of what happened to you so it can happen to me in the listening of the story. That clear that up for you some?
Yes.
Can you take another pass and divide it into two stories and make up the details? What would it be like to wake up, from a sleep that changed your life? It sounds to me like the protagonist had a moment in which she could decide to stay here or leave, and she decided to stay. Track me through that decision. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Turn
Thank
feeling into events and story. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Soyeni, for being so brave.
Mm.
We're moving into an hour, and I have another class, so I'm gonna stop today. In the
Okay.
interim, CN, you gonna go look at what you were gonna share with me today?
It actually works well because mine is a multi-character show. So that'll work well for tomorrow if you
Oh,
want.
a little bit long. Let me just put this off a little bit longer. Okay. Did today broaden your understanding of a solo show, of what a solo show can be? It ain't
Yes.
got to be theater with people speaking and da, 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 da. It's just got to be a good story.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, so to write in the present, is that to write more from a sensual point of view, like taking the sight, smell, and all of that? Like, how do you write present?
The way that you just tell me a story and let it
Okay,
happen.
okay.
I'm doing this and I'm doing that. I went here. If you start with the action.
Mhm.
So writing is always best for me to give you notes, is for you to write and then send me the writing.
Okay, that
Talking
one.
actually doesn't really help you.
Hmm.
Talking about it, we have to write and then look at what we have. Or we have to tell story and record, which is another way of writing. They all work, but you got to take that first pass at it to see what it is that the story wants to be. Test just that's what a journal entry is. I feel this and this and this and this happened and this happened and this happened. It doesn't have to be organized. Just give me events that happened to you. Tell me what had happened was.
What happened was.
Always start with that in the back of your mind. See, what had happened was my friend and I was at the Walmart. Right? Tell me what happened or what is happening. What I love is the artist way taught me to go on artist dates, right? So that meant once a week I had to go out by myself, not with anyone else, to some place I'd never been to have an experience. And I would take my journal. But 9 times out of 10, if I was actually doing this daring thing, some magical adventure would happen to me because I had decided to be open to a new experience. So I was like, I am going to go to the Waldorf Astoria and I am going to order a proper English tea. There's tea trays with all the 7 courses. And I'm going to allow the maitre d' to walk me through a proper British tea service, right? The water has to be super, 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 super hot. The tea is loose. It's in the cup. You pour it in a certain way. The water has to happen like this. And he's explaining why these things all have to happen. And then you let the tea steep. and then you put cold milk in. Why? All these things to have the adventure and to do it by myself. Because when you have the adventure by yourself, you get to chronicle the feelings and the experience of it. You're not doing something to converse with other people or make anyone feel comfortable. You're there to have an experience that you can then write about. It immediately puts you in the present because it's challenging to do something. It's challenging you to do something that might be frightening. And I never thought of it that way until I went on art states and I'd be sitting at restaurants by myself and people be like, "Aren't you scared to do that?" I was like, "Why would I be scared to sit at a restaurant by myself?" Because committing to having an experience that might be a little scary and new allows you to observe your life more keenly and more experientially. Helps you be a better writer. There's something to I'm going to run off to France and drink wine in garrets and talk about poetry and become a part of the Bohemian set. You know, these fantasies, that was the dream. I was going to be in New York and then do the south of France, like for jazz festivals. I was going to have the experience in New York and write about it and be present in it. In order to change your life, to change your perspective, to see your life in terms of valuable stories, you actually have to get present in it. That's why whenever I get emails and people are like, "Oh, I'm not writing because I'm worried about money and I'm worried about this," I was like, "That none of that has to do with your writing or living. Our outer state costs nothing. Museums are free once a month. You can drive to a French patisserie at least within 30 minutes of you, or take a train and sit there and eat a fresh baked croissant with people speaking French around you. That's not impossible. You could go to Sam's Club and bump into the most magnificent human being you've ever met and chronicle your feelings about this person. I had a client that went to the grocery store, was broken up, and was going to have her red wine. Is I remember it feels like my life. Her red wine and her decadent Haagen-Dazs. She went to celebrate the end of a relationship, and she had a plan for staying in her apartment for 4 days, just eating ice cream, drinking wine. It was a really well thought out plan. She even had a caftan on, and she had like pajama pants on underneath the caftan, so she could just get out of her car, get her gear, go back, and never leave. She met in that store the love of her life in her pajamas. The love of her life, who ended up being a woman. She was like, "I'm straight. I'm straight." I said, "Everybody straight to their heels in the ceiling." Yes, I said. As she was vulnerable to, because she was coming from a place of, I have this connection that was so important to me that has been broken, and I'm aching. I'm raw. I'm vulnerable. I'm paying attention to my life, and I'm focusing on something that will make me feel better. You took my Unstuck class. You know, focusing on getting towards a feeling instead of some concrete goal that's beyond your power to achieve. You can focus on getting closer to feelings. So she was paying attention to this woman in the store, how she was making her feel. And she's like, "This was really from the relationship I just got out of. I'm going to explore this." That ended up being a really profound relationship. And she was like, "And I don't have to be gay. I don't have to be straight. I can just have a magical love right now that makes me feel the way I'd like to feel." She was messy. She's in damn pajamas in the grocery store, clearly buying wine and ice cream. Now, everybody at the register and in the line knew what was going on. I said to you, "It's really rough. I just want to spend some time with a French red or Chilean champagne and Ben and Jerry's." If I tell you that, you have an idea of what's going on in my life. I am the hot mess.
Mm.
There's a bodega on the Upper West Side in New York City that has the most expansive collection of Ben and Jerry's. They must get a delivery every single day because they are never out of flavors. And it's all the way in the back. It's too, it's like one of those glass cases where you have all the beer. They got a section for beer that, like 4 glass doors. They got a section for ice cream at 6 glass doors.
Wow. I love it.
I'm like, what is happening here? They have every Ben and Jerry's flavor. They had more Ben and Jerry's flavors than if you go into a Ben and Jerry's ice cream parlor. They're like, today we have these 10 flavors. No, 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 no. Not this bodega. It's a really big bodega. It's like a Jewish deli grocery store. Like, it's two stores that got put together. But listen, when I saw that ice cream case, I was like, this is where middle-aged broken hearts go to die. Every time I go to this bodega, I meet someone amazing standing in front of that glass. I was like, you here with me? We here for yeah. I met men with their dogs. I met single women. I'm like, I met a woman that just finished her gastric bypass surgery several months ago, and she was like, "So I'm getting these 3 pints, and I'm sharing them with my dog because I can only eat this much." I was like- She's like, "I'm not getting married." Like the stories that happened at the Ben and Jerry's case in this bodega on the Upper West Side. It's like Broadway and 90 something. Listen, that case is a setup for a Broken Hearts Club. And I found it on an artist date.
Mm.
Artist date where I was like, I'm gonna walk all of the Upper West Side on Broadway, and I'm going to have a meal, and I'm going to read a book today. That was the artist date. Magical things happened on that date that I then wrote about because the artist date forces you to focus on your life, on you, on being right in the present moment. So, Cian, you want to read something tomorrow? Go in, work on it tonight, clean it up, and send it to me tonight. And we will meet back here 5 o'clock my time. I think it's 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time tomorrow
Yes.
for an hour and a half. We're going to do some coaching like we did today. We're going to look at another type of solo show because I want to get everybody's head out of, oh, it has to be the theater, it has to be. No, it just has to be a story. Okay. And then we're going to look at somebody's writing, do some coaching, and then I'm going to sell you a class. Does that work for everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Y'all gonna start playing and buy a class. But so you already bought her class. Iris and Katie bought a class last month. Now we're gonna see if we can do a commitment to another like 10 hours to actually finish something. Questions, comments, thoughts, anxiety, joy.
Joy.
Yay! Have a
Okay.
lovely Sunday. Thank you
Okay.
for being here. I had so much fun. I'm glad we got to share Aryana Rose together.
Yes.
I want joy. I always go and listen to them.
That's a great story.
It's
Yes. Great story.
it's so true. It's so uncomplicated.
Simple but beautiful.
Hmm.
Like, wow.
A moment.
Yeah.
Happy Sunday, y'all.
Bye, you
Hi,
too.
everybody.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.